Hello, one and all, and welcome to the podcast we call the Fantastival with myself, Steve Nussbaum, in the podcast where I invite my guests to come on, talk to me all about their musical tastes, their memories, their experiences, and they get to collate their fantasy festivals, which I have christened Fantastivals. Thank you to everyone for coming back and listening to the Fantastival podcast. I hope you are all well, and I hope everyone has had a great bank holiday weekend, and I hope everyone is just enjoying life. So the Fantastival podcast is now back. It's time to introduce the guest on our 177th episode, and I'm delighted to introduce guitarist and vocalist from the wonderful band of Skulls. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the one, the only, Russell Marsden.
That is a big intro. Thank you very much. Yeah, you need to. Can you add in some crowd, some applause here or something? It's like a boxing intro, but I like it.
It is. I'll have the drum roll. I'll have the crowd roars. When you listen back, you'll be like,
you.
It's amazing.
Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody, and it's great to be here. I just listened to the podcast before I came on, so it's that surreal experience of going behind the curtain and going from listener to interviewee. But I'm very happy to be here.
Great stuff. Thanks. Before we started, we were talking kind of about American visas. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff to get sorted before you get to the States and obviously play the music. And I always like starting these podcasts by asking people how they are, right? Because mental health is such a big thing, so important. So Russell, mate, generally, how are you?
It's a great question, and yeah, it's one that we didn't ever ask in the past. So I'm glad that comes up these days. I think we all do check in with people and on ourselves as well. So I would say I am stressed but controlled. I'm in the queue. I'm waiting for my visa confirmation and trying to get all the bandmates sorted. And there's some things in life you can't control, and you just have to be patient. So we've all done these sort of things before, where you have to wait for your results from uni, or it's your new job, or it's something even more important. So in the end, you move on, but there's that bit where you have to sort of hurry up and wait, and that's where I'm at right now.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff. I'm sure when that visa comes through, there'll be a great feeling and all goes blazing.
It might come through during the interview. That'd be good.
That'll be a first for the Fantastival podcast. A live American visa for a tour coming through. That'd be amazing. All right, Russell, let me take you back. I always like going back into people's earliest memories of music. It's such an emotive thing, music. People talk about early memories, whether it's with family or friends. Let's hear about yours. What were your earliest musical memories, Russell?
Well, my family, especially my dad, my mum as well, but they're just big music fans. And so there was always music in the house growing up. And there was no musicians or bands around. Like lots of my friends now have like a drummer who was, their dad was a drummer, or, their mum was in a band or whatever, or their siblings. But it was sort of just me being interested in it and sort of getting fascinated. And one of my earliest memories is going up to the stereo, and it was like a vinyl player and an amp, with like kind of it's for me like big like volume control, and like I think looking back, the first musical moment I had was manipulating the music, turning the volume up and down, making that you could change the balance to the left and the right speaker, so really I was like getting into the production pretty early on. 5 years old, I was like, I think kind of that's what it is. I was like, this could do with a bit more bass here, and maybe if everything's over to the right for a while, that would be good. And just got involved with that, probably without permission, or like to the horror of my dad, with his nice hi-fi, and that was what it was. And then sort of taking an interest in that, and then my dad saying, well, listen to this. And I share this memory with a couple of my mates, actually, because we're about the same age. But he's like, right, do you want to listen to some exciting music? And at the time it would have been like 10 years old or whatever, or even older actually, but it would have been like Pink Floyd or something, and he'd be like, right, sit there, close your eyes and listen to the whole album. Wow. So I was there like 5 years old, and it would be like, right, sit there, close your eyes and listen to like Dark Side of the Moon, or it would be like Wish You Were Here. And it was sort of like a horror movie, really. Yeah. But because you've got your eyes shut and you're listening to this incredible, classic seminal works of all these great artists. And it was English too, right? So you understood that it was an English thing, I think, somehow. And all of a sudden you got your eyes closed, you're a little kid, your imagination's running riot. And I didn't know what it was or how it was made or what it meant, but it obviously changed me, and that was it, really. It was sort of sowed the seed for later on, when I did find music myself, that all that was already sort of pre-programmed in, I think, you know, all that stuff.
So you spoke about finding music yourself then. So obviously Floyd is a very exceptional young music experience to have at that age, when most people are probably listening to pop or maybe a lot more commercialised stuff, and you've got Floyd going on in the dark with your eyes closed. When you found music...
it's a bit much, isn't it? It's like some kind of like a social experiment going on. Yeah.
When you found music...
Yeah, it's intense. Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, the one thing I really sort of... I'm envious of anyone that, you know, maybe hasn't played music or hasn't had an interest in that, is what that must sound like now, when you can just take the whole experience as one. And I guess the closest I can get is if it's something like some music that I'm not familiar with, whether it's like world music or jazz to a certain extent, or like classical, where I have no idea how it's happening. I don't understand how it's possible to make. So I hear the whole thing at once. Whereas like when it gets down to like, you know, maybe like pop music now or like rock music, I'm like, I just can't help but focusing on one thing. Be like, oh, that's a great snare sound. Or, oh yeah, that's cool. And then I think, God, you know, I'm like, damn, I've done it again. You know, I wish I could just relax and just let the whole thing happen. It's a bit like the first time you see like something in, like, I don't know, at this point it would be like the AI thing. For the first couple of times you get tricked, right? You get duped into thinking, whoa. And then you've got this little part of you that is looking out for it. And so back then I got the whole shot in one go. And I think that's kind of an amazing moment. And going back now, even if I listen to those records, I'm like, yeah, these were really good lyrics or whatever.
So how did you get into playing in, Russell? Did that kind of just follow your intense like listening and
analysing? No. I listened to Pink Floyd in the dark, and then there was a good number of years where I didn't do any. I did all the other things that, you know, growing up you do. And I went to school, and I was just, I loved music, but I didn't quite understand where the starting point was, you know. And it was much later on. I was quite a late starter, and my sister, my younger sister, she was the one that would bug the parents to like, can I, you know, try different things. It's important as a kid, right? You have one summer you try that, you find what you like. But she was doing that whole thing of trying all these different things out. And one of those things was guitar, which hurt her fingers, and she gave up. And this guitar kind of went from her room down the landing, like on the way to the bin, really. And it was like, I remember it being not quite at the front door, but at the top of the stairs. And so before it went down to the inevitable, give it to, you know, hand me down in the family or whatever, or went somewhere to the charity shop, before I just took it like into my room and just started figuring out what it was all about. And I played the guitar kind of caveman, like I had it on my lap. I can show you right now with this cheap guitar here. I had it on my lap, and I had it like down like a lap steel, and I had like I started with the easiest thing, my two thumbs, and I sort of played bass. And you know, so I really was self-taught. Like, I had no idea even how to hold it. And so, yeah, I just started off that. And I just started off writing songs, really, straight away. You know, because I didn't know how to play. I definitely couldn't have brought another song along. So I just started writing my own tunes, you know, with one string and two fingers, two thumbs. And even now, when I play, I'm incorrect, because I play like this. Sorry, this is an audio podcast. I play the guitar with my thumb over the top of the neck.
Right, okay.
It should be, if you're doing it properly, on the back, like if there was a line. And I play over the top, which is straight back to how I learned, you know, which is quite handy now because I can play a kind of bass note and play something else. But like, it's a bad habit to pick up, and I've still got the same like goofy grip as I had as a kid.
I think you've done all right. I think your goofy grip has seen you well. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Yeah, seen me all right. Yeah.
So when did you start kind of, I guess, getting serious about music, or realise that, I guess, the potential was there to maybe make something in the music world?
Well, yeah, I mean, not about the industry, but like as an artist, like, and as a creative person, I think I was pretty serious about it from straight away, really. And I was writing songs in my head, and I was just trying to find a tool to help me do it. You know, I just was trying to figure out the means to make the ideas, you know, happen. So I've been writing songs, writing lyrics, and listening to music. It just took a long time to figure out how to, you know, and there's no rules to this, but like, you know, for us it was like guitars, and I just then was graduate to anyone that had music or knew about stuff. And we were like, it was secondary school in England in the 90s. So what was happening was this incredible cultural moment in the background. So we kind of knew about we knew about grunge, and Kurt Cobain had just passed away. And so that felt like a seminal moment. And all the older kids were talking that this music was important, and this was our generation of music, and it wasn't the 70s and 80s stuff that my parents had, or 90s, you know. And all of a sudden it felt like, right, you could go to school and you could see a kid with a certain like look about him, or I don't know, clothes or whatever, and you knew it was like your tribe. And I think that's when it started to happen, that we started grouping together and then sharing ideas about, and we would like just mention the band names. It was like learning all those I don't know, just learning that culture. We didn't have social media, of course, and we didn't really have the internet for a long time. So it was like we had to learn. It was handed around like verbally. And then the big thing that happened is where I would have the register in school happened to be the music room. So we would go in half an hour early every morning and just trade guitar licks between all like whoever was there. My line now is that it was about 5 or 6 guitars with about 10 strings between them, you know, like all half broken. And we would all like, and I was just starting off, so I'd listen a lot and maybe play a little bass, and there'd be some other kids there that would be a little bit further down the line, and they'd be like, oh, this is how you play, I don't know, Come As You Are or whatever. And then you would learn, within 1 week, you'd learn the band name and the guitar riff, and then you were like off on the way, you know. And if you could then, so that was it. And so it was like this sort of illicit, like black market of little tunes and little earworms. And we'd never learn the whole song, just like enough to impress the next kid, you know. And also they'd all be wrong because it was like Chinese whispers. So yeah, even now I'm like, oh yeah, I know that song. And if I tried to embarrass myself and play the song, I know I'd be doing it.
I love it when you think you've nailed a guitar riff and you're playing it, and then you actually realise what the riff is, and it's completely different to the riff you're playing.
Imagine meeting a writer and saying, oh yeah, I'll join in, and no, that's not it. So, but in a way, getting it wrong is the beginning of creativity, and and in a way, getting it wrong and then going on those going out there and exploring the mistakes is sort of where the original ideas come through. And I think that's where we went on. We started writing songs, and I joined up with a guy called Martin Granger, and he was like, well, I'm a guitar player, you can be the bass player. I said, you know, that's great. And then even back then, young drummer Matt Hayward from Southampton, who was a good 5 years younger than us, who ended up being in Band of Skulls later down the line. So like we got together like once a week, as bands do, you know, on a Saturday morning, and stayed out of trouble and became a little rock and roll band, like in our own private universe. Yeah.
And
that's how it started.
And then that obviously leads to Band of Skulls eventually.
Yeah, and very eventually. We did all the different things, you know, wrote loads of songs, made our own little records, and did local tours, changed the band name, people left, you know, all of that stuff that goes on. But the band, being in a band was the constant. And a little bit later on, we broke out with we had a lot of interest from London record labels at one point, and we nearly were one of those young bands that made it big early on, and that was an interesting moment. Our classic venue down here is the Joiners Arms, still going strong, and I'm very fond of it, of course. But back in the day, we did a show there as our first proper band was called Fleeing New York, and at one point the whole audience of this 150 cap venue was just the London A&R community. Wow. The audience was the industry, and like we had this incredible chance, I think, then, but also we probably weren't ready, and we didn't really take that chance, and it didn't really amount to anything. But you know, I think we realised, that was one route we could have taken, and perhaps we would have put out an EP in a different genre in a different moment, and then the rest of the career wouldn't have happened in the same way. We would have been, I think, gone through it like as a, I don't know, like it would have been a faster career, I reckon. It would have been like a hot new record, and then next one.
Everything obviously always happens for a reason, right? And obviously, what did it feel like, I guess, when you did get signed? Because sometimes a band can release a debut album and you go, wow, overnight success, but it's anything but an overnight success. It's years in the making.
We had 10 years of then trying to get back to that. And so when we finally got like signed, it was more like, well, okay, right, now we're 10 years better. I think that was it. We're like, well, I think we thought, I'll speak for myself here, but I thought that, oh, this is great. Now I know what I want to do and what I want to play and how I want to come across. And if we did this 10 years ago, I'm still figuring it out. And so it was still very exciting, of course, because we were still we were, underground band playing so we had some trips and stuff. We played around the world a little bit, but mainly like UK and a bit of London. So underground. And so the idea of getting your music out to a bigger audience it wasn't about being signed. It was about the audience going, I don't know how many times, but going from one listen to a million, that was okay, how does that change this? Are we going to make music differently? So I think we became kind of self-conscious all of a sudden. But I remember that moment, and I remember the first song going live and watching it just tick over, and watching a comments reel just scroll away. That was a wild ride, that was different.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that was obviously back when you released, I guess, your debut album comes out in 2009, and obviously Band of Skulls have a great catalogue of albums. I'd love to go through them all individually, but we could be here for hours. But I guess as the albums go by, band gets, I would say, successful, right? In a day where album sales counted for something, and I guess it's quite an interesting period where you're releasing your albums, because you start, I guess, mostly on a physical basis, and it starts moving to a more digital basis.
Yeah, well, I mean, even that moment, we arrived 2009, and it was sort of the end of the old era. So we kind of, even that timing was a bit weird. So we were just on the very tail end of that physical world in a way. But I think more about the format that the music was on. I think it was more of the art form of the album. We made an album where every song was important, and it wasn't just here's the hit single or here's the single and here's some other stuff, move on to the next. It was like this album the songs were supposed to be together, and it really felt like a debut album. And of course, the songs that we put together on that record, a couple were new, but mainly it was sort of the best of our band from maybe 5 years before, like a debut album should be. It's like all your best tunes, isn't it? It's almost like your set, and it's the gig. So when we first went out, our gig was the album. So talking about fantasy bands, and sometimes the debut album does feel special because it's the entirety of the band. That's all they've got, and it's all we had. So we would play, we'd play a gig, and all the songs, well, not all of them, but some of them would be twice as long, extended, because we didn't have enough tunes to do a whole show. We just had to reel it off. So it felt like an album, and it still does. Those songs are glued not only to the moment, to that era, and people are it's old enough now that people are having this reminiscence about it being like a nostalgic thing. It has, but the album has birthdays now, which is weird. I'm terrible with remembering everyone's birthday, but now the albums have these dates that you have to think about. But also the songs are stuck to a moment, but also those songs are stuck together. You can't undo it now. They're locked in. It's a bubble, like a great album is. Everyone's now, obviously the Oasis reunions happen this summer, but every album's like a different band, isn't it? You can't although for a band it's an experience. For the fan, it's these bullet points of albums, and you can't start putting Wonderwall on the first album. That would ruin everything. That would touch your head, doesn't it? That doesn't work, does it? But in their mind, they probably had a couple of those tunes at the same time or whatever like that. So yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? And also, but yeah, all this energy was building up for us, and it all just happened in 2009. And I think we were going against the grain. There was the financial crisis in America, and we were coming out with this sort of rock and roll sound, and a bit optimistic as well. And everyone else was going bust and dying away, and we were there the only ones left going down that road. I feel and it felt like we were the only band knocking on that door at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to that album earlier, and it still holds up. It still sounds amazing. It still sounds as fresh today as what it did 15 years ago. And obviously, you mentioned kind of the relevance of dates, right? But we are approaching, or we've surpassed the 15th anniversary for that album, and probably a good time to mention the box set that's in the pipeworks.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on. It's kind of it's a box set of the first three albums.
Yeah,
and I think if you're going to do an era of the band, that was the initial breakthrough of the band, and those albums do have sort of more in common with each other, and it all happened in a really small amount of time. I don't think we had a day off in those three albums, in those 5 years, whatever it was. So yeah, I'm doing a box set about that and all behind the scenes stuff with that, but also about this how we got there. This band before, this sort of Band of Skulls 1.0, you know, or 0 point, where the band was called Fleeing New York, and we were the same band. We just sort of rebranded, and Band of Skulls was our like way of changing it up enough to sort of arrive from the left field, you know, with all of that experience under our belts, but also to make it fresh and exciting. And even some of the songs have links back to the old band. So I wanted for the first time to tell that story. And so I went and looked and saw what I had, and I had so much. I was amazed what I'd kept, like almost subconsciously. I'd kept everything, like every ticket stub and every flyer and all these cassettes, everything was there like a history. It just took a while to like put it all together. So the first chapter of the book is how the band started. And then it's some insights into those other records, like, and I think, you know, it starts off on bits of paper, and then it goes into the social media age. Wow. You know, so like it starts off with like these raggedy bits of paper, you know, all torn edges and all the things we would stick up around the town. And like I wanted to show some of the physical things. Like the first album was done on tape, so I've got the big tape boxes, the actual tapes, and all of the producers' notes are like written on a piece of paper.
Oh, wow.
That stuff doesn't really happen anymore, not so much, you know, so it's kind of cool to see that history. You can see like all of the notes on the songs and the working titles of the songs, and yeah, like the way we've made it, because it's like an art form that is made not in an instant, it's sort of like sketched up into a thing, and I think that's what I'm doing now. Yeah, and celebrating 15 years of the band, like breaking through to a bigger audience in general, yeah.
And I think that as a fan of any band, when you see the band that you love doing that is obviously going that extra mile, right? It's obviously, you know, people learn the debut album and the first 3 albums, but they get more content. Is there anything that you kind of listened to and you thought, how did that not make it on to one of these albums? Or
well, like I was saying before, I mean, often if it's really good and you just run out of time or anything, like they do come back. Like those songs end up on the next album, and sometimes they end up on an album way down the line. And that's the interesting thing about being an artist now is. The value of the idea could be something that, you know, I might feel inspired later on today and write a song, and that might be on the next record. But I know I've got a tune that I did back in those days, or like even before that, like back at school, and I'm like, yeah, that would be cool to use one day. And sometimes you pick up the guitar and there it is. It still exists. It's just for you, you know. And so it's all about timing and chance. So yeah. There's this stuff about records coming out and having this sort of cultural sort of place where they live, and sometimes they get, you know, to be 10 years old, 25 years old and all that. But also, like, as an artist, it's just you and your instrument, and it's just weird. It comes at unexpected times. You never know really when inspiration is going to hit, and see two things collide, and yeah, So yeah, 15 years of a bigger audience. I think I'm celebrating the audience really more than the music, because the music's always been there. Like it's celebrating the fan experience, and that's a really important thing to any band, and definitely it's been incredible for me. So yeah, it's celebrating that, you know, that relationship.
That's amazing. As well as looking back, we look forward as well. So 2025 later on in the year, imminently, I guess. You're off to the States, off to support the mighty Jet.
Yeah, on a jet to see the Jet. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's been a minute since I've been out on the road, and you know, there's been lots of changes everywhere for everybody, right? So like, and I'm no different. But like, I've not been out to the States to tour since 2019, so like, kind of a lifetime ago now. So I'm really excited about that, and I've got an incredible band that's more of like a collective now these days. I've got some amazing musicians that I've been working with. And yeah, I got invited out to do these shows for Jet, and starts over in Canada and goes down to the States. Yeah, and I'm so excited to play, and you know, and this is new songs, of course, but also all the older music, and let that evolve along. Because we talk about these songs like being on a record, and that's like a photograph of the moment, but also the songs exist, they're alive still, you know, like we rehearsed on Friday and played all those songs again, you know, in a different place in the world, in a different time, and those songs are still alive. It's quite amazing, really. And you do go into a place where you remember where you wrote them, but also they're there on the day, you know. It's like, here it is Death by Diamonds and Pearls, you know, on Friday, 2025. There it is. It's a little bit different because it's not tracked or anything. It's a live band, right? So, but there it is. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the song still ringing out. And I can't wait to, and again, the bit that's missing is the audience. That's the bit that is important for that communal live experience. So yeah, I'm excited.
And you mentioned new songs as well. So a new album in the pipeline?
Yeah, I've been working on that this year. A new album, and it's super exciting. I'm always writing new songs, and this has been the biggest gap between albums, especially like a loud album. I made this acoustic album in the lockdown, or more like it's more orchestral and acoustic and.
Great album, Russell. So I cut you off. I listened to it earlier.
It's like
great album, nice album.
Thing,
Yeah.
That took 10 years to save up those songs.
Yeah.
But it was a perfect lockdown experience in that respect, and turns out to be like the swan song of that version of the band as well. So that it's sort of is fitting in a way. But the minute that you do all that and experience this whole experience, like the minute that that was finished, I was like, I just want to turn the guitars up again. Like you would, right? Really? The spice of life. I was like, I want rock and roll. I'm desperate for it. So it's taken a minute, and I've been working with some really talented people and trying to get all the songs that I want to, all the directions I want to explore into the future, and also probably the most harking back to where it all began. So it's like I've been going into like I've been using the pedal. I've got this fuzz pedal. It's a Big Muff, and it's been broken a few times. All the paint's come off. It's all rusty. There's the kind of tape from the first tour of the settings. I was like, I'm not going to use a fuzz pedal. I'm going to use that pedal. So it's like I want the genuine experience. So like, this is definitely a Band of Skulls record, because some of those things are. Some things are different, but some things are the same. And that to me, and the minute you plug that in, I don't know. I hit the guitar. I can't not sound like me. It's sometimes frustrating, but I'm like, well, there it is. It's a simple recipe, but there it is. So that's been interesting. On the basic end of it is that, and on the more unbelievable end of it is early this year we went and did the final bits of the recording. 2 days, Studio 2 in Abbey Road.
Wow.
And I was beside myself. I think I was beside myself. Like my face ached from smiling for that couple of days. And I looked around, and everybody in the band and everyone there has the same expression. Like the place is like it's like, I don't know, it's the closest to a religious experience that we can have. Like we're in the place that's made so many great songs, and so much great music has happened in that room. Although it's changed, but you can't scrub away that history. You just feel it. It's there. So we got to add our humble sound waves echoed off of those famous walls for a couple of days. Yeah.
Amazing experience. I had a few workmates who went to Abbey Road and kind of was shown round and given a tour, and they kind of said exactly the same as you said. So a highly recommendable place. So Russell, there's lots of great music out there at the moment, whether it's old or new, but what are you listening to at the moment, whether that's streaming or whether you've got a physical? What's on your hi-fi at the moment?
Well, I'm always all over the place, and also it's important for me, like processing, like when I'm building up to a record, I'm trying to listen to nothing, because I'm really focused on like not copying anyone by mistake, for one, and also really like focusing on what I want to do, and sort of turning off the noise. But and now I'm coming out of that. I'm like opening up the airwaves again, So I'm like, oh yeah, so what's going on? And then just the other day down here, Southampton, it's really great scene. Always has been down here. But I went out with my friend Dave Penn. Dave plays in a band called Archive. You should have him on your podcast, actually. And yeah, he's plays massive concerts, and whenever I go and see him play, he's always playing some like stadium in France, and I'm like, oh my god. But like, he was like, I'm DJing outside the smallest venue on the festival. I'm DJing, just getting some beers, and I'm playing Saturday and Sunday 12 till 7, like the whole thing. I'm like, he also does ultra marathons, so I was like, of course you are. So I said, oh yeah, I'll put down. I'm like, how much do you want me to bring? And what, whatever. He's like, just whenever, whatever. So I knew what it's like. So I went down there like with half of my vinyl, and we played for 7 hours. So a little bit is like that, and so like a lot of the music, and we did One for One, which I love DJing.
Oh, great, yeah,
So
great
like,
shout.
so you don't really know where you're going to go, and I think that kind of sums up how I listen to music too. So it can be like this dusty, unknown record, or it can be like something brand new, and like I think that's the interesting way of doing it now. Like I'm also interested in music that isn't on the streaming sites.
Yeah.
Or maybe even YouTube, when you've got like maybe your record is rare and you're like, and no one else can have it, and then you can go and play like DJ live, and then hearing that record like blare out and bounce off the walls of the buildings around you is kind of a fun experience, right? Because it's like you can't just get it whenever. But yeah, I've been listening to lots of things. I was just thinking about this now, like I find some things on like social media, you know, the things that pop on when you're streaming, you sort of look into it and then you start listening. And then the next thing you're a fan, but there's this band called Rainy Day Cafe that I've been listening to. It's a guy down on the south coast. I want to say Brighton Way. If you're listening, can you put him in this hashtag so he hears this?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm a massive fan, and it's something about that bedroom pop philosophy. And he seems to be in his bedroom. He's got a reel-to-reel tape recorder, like a Tascam. And he's got a drum kit and a little bass and a guitar, and he sings. It's the best thing I've heard for ages. It's like so real, and I'm sure he's going to blow up, and and we won't be able to get him, talk to him, and he'll be too expensive to work with really soon. He's super talented, and I think first off, even his songs weren't even long enough. They were just like sort of Instagram reel length tunes, and I think he's just done an album now. So I've been checking out his album. So I've been listening to that a little bit. But even now, I don't feel like it's his first, like, full-on, like, it looks like it's still fun, and then the pressure's not on yet, so I've been checking that out. Rainy Day Cafe, and the E's got the little accent,
Oh, God, yeah.
I'm doing an upward tick on the E, whatever that's called, the French cafe, yeah. So that's cool. And also maybe in lockdown, like La Lom, that's that stuff that you hear first in a little reel, and turns out it's a really great band. And I also love instrumental bands, like when there's not a lyric in the way to make me not like it or like get too involved. It's just pure music, and if I love the tunes, then who needs a singer? Just let the music come in. So La Lom, again, sort of that could have been from another moment. It's like that could have been a '60s surf rock band, but also it could have been straight up from a Tarantino. But it's now, and they do a beautiful thing. I'd love to see them when I'm out in the States, if I can catch them. And doing something new with the guitar, something that's not contrived or not like stale. So I've been listening to that. They're my like Instagram finds. Yeah.
Brilliant, great stuff. I'd have to check out Rainy Day Cafe as well.
Rainy Day Cafe. Yeah, make him huge. He deserves it. It's absolutely sick. And also like I love his recording. Everything sounds like slightly warped and timey, like the tape's been out in the sun a little bit much, which just takes me back to like that moment of like swapping cassettes and like. So he's taking me on a nostalgic trip, even though he's doing it now, as a young artist. Yeah.
I was glad to hear you talk as a music fan. You can obviously hear how passionate you are about music as a fan, as well as an artist as well. So this podcast is all about you collating your fantasy festival, Russell. Are you a big fan of festivals?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I am, and I think it's like it's the closest to that kind of, when as an artist and in a band, it's quite hard to visualize or imagine how many people have heard you play. The closest you can get is like the gig.
Yeah.
But that's just like your super fans that live in that particular part of the world. Let's just say, I don't know, you're playing in Wales. Like if you have 500 fans in Wales, you go and play there, they'll be there, hopefully, right? So the festival is like, oh, maybe this is the people that might have heard one of your songs or might have know your name. And it's just sort of more, it feels like the world, it's like the interface with the world, if you will. So yeah, I love them. I love the small ones. I love discovering things. I love the big ones that the management and say this one's important, because if you're looking after a band, every gig's important. So I love it when it's like, no, this one's really important. Basically, don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
And I love the out of body experience of doing those ones. Like I've been looking back on the career a little bit anyway. So like you look at yourself, and you're like, yeah, that's us, that's me, that's that song. yeah, that's Glastonbury. Yeah, yeah. That's the big audience. There's the flags. You're like, well, when did that happen? You know, I went out there and I played the right notes and I pressed the right buttons on the pedal board and probably walked off with like a relief if we didn't fuck it. But looking back, like that is just mad energy, and yeah, like that's a big moment. Thank God it's like been recorded, because it all just flies by anyway. So yeah, I love those moments. And then when if it rains or like something unexpected happens, or the music suits the mood, you know, even if you watch it on TV, you get that vibe, right? If it's Glastonbury and the sun's going down, and you just feel like, oh, that's a perfect act for that moment. So I'm into that, and I like the variation. Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to warn you, I've not prepared a festival set list. I'm just going to go. I'm going to go like off the top of my head.
Best way to go sometimes, I think. You mentioned kind of unexpected moments. What is the most unexpected moment that you've had whilst on stage? Or if not unexpected, I guess the most memorable, which might be a quite
okay,
generic question, or you might have moments pop into your head.
There's so many. Yeah, just the weirdest things happen sometimes, you know, like the weirdest things happen. Like going back to that Glastonbury, like we were really pumped. It was one of the biggest shows that we'd ever been, you know, booked to do. And I think it was the other stage, but it was the time when they were putting on like a legend on first to get everyone down. So it was Blondie. So Blondie opened up for us, and I don't think they were that happy about it, you know, because it was a bit cold and it was the Brexit announcement weekend. So everyone was a bit like, it was all a bit down, if I remember. Prince had just passed away. You know, it's not the best weekend. Anyway, so I remember meeting them as they came off the stage, and you want to go, oh yeah, you know, great set. So big, it wasn't the moment, you know, so you had to let that one slide. Stuff like that. And also, yeah, I've been looking back, like the first time we did Coachella, like looking how, I mean, that festival's changed quite a lot recently, but like back in the day, there's lots of bands, and going to do that, and we went from like nightclubs, we kind of fell out of the van from the club show the night before. We didn't really know what we were doing. I think the guitar didn't work for the first 10 minutes, you know, and then I think like it you know, someone kicked something and it lit up and came on, and the crowd applauded the guitar turn on. Something simple. You know? It was a great show, but in a way, adversity often brings everyone together, you know.
Absolutely.
We just want to hear some music, and everyone's there having an absolute meltdown, you know. Could have been the end of the band, that one. And then like someone was like, "Dink, 2 guitar cables into a tuner," or whatever it was. I mean, probably my fault as well, but things like that, simple things, really.
Brilliant. So this time is here. It's time for you, Russell. You get to play your fantasy festival. So for anyone,
I've been trying to put this off. Yeah. Okay, so all right. So I'm going to go back to some ones I've said before, but I'm sort of, if I can go anytime, any person, anything, I'm going to go back into my DJ set, because really,
like, we can go anywhere you want.
In
Russell.
a way, like playing records is a bit like who you would like to perform for you then and there. So like. A few years ago, I got into this record. I think I found it on a video or something. But the song is called Soul Vibrations, and the artist is Dorothy Ashby. So she's like a late 60s, very hip harp player. And I heard this record, and I'm like, it's just sick. And I was like, oh yeah, I've got to get this record. And the whole thing is just, I love it. And I went to go and get the album on vinyl. Oh yeah, it's one of the rarest out of print LPs.
Of course it is.
In the world. And there were like copies going for like $500, $600. I was like, well, that's it. Anyway, just after lockdown, they repressed it, and like whatever it was, 1,000, whatever they did, they limited edition. So I ordered it like a rough trade, and like went up to town just to get this one. I was like, yeah, I got it. So I always play that one. So that would be a really nice stage opening act. You know, the harp's there. It would be it's sunny, and it's a very, check it out. The album's called it's called Afro Harping, the album. So she can play that whole album.
Wicked.
If she honors us with it, and if anyone wants to go and check that out, it's also, you know, you can stream it, and you can buy the vinyl now. So yeah, I start with that one.
That's one of the things I love about this podcast, is that you never quite know who anyone is going to pick. And then you've mentioned Dorothy Ashby, who I've never heard of, and then I'll go and check it out, and anyone who's listening will check it out. In a fairer world, she would be one of the names that everyone would
know about. I guess this record that was such good quality that has just gained momentum and respect over the years. But like, it's just brilliant. So yeah, I mean, no one will hate that. And it sounds weird, jazz, harp, psychedelic maybe, but yeah, go for it. It's just, that's the one. So start off with that one. And I'm just thinking of the records now. If I'm getting the next record out, I'm into this band, another from that era, late 60s, the Rotary Connection. And the famous song is "I'm the Black Gold of the Sun." So like full soulful vibes and like big, like in the pocket drums, funky guitar, big bass. And I think I can see that being the daytime festival, like big vibes. That's what I'd like for the first two.
That's a great show. All right, we're going to do that. So Dorothy Ashby is going to open for you. Then the Rotary Connection are going to be your super seconds and play that. I obviously know Black Gold of the Sun. I think most people will know that.
Yeah. That is a good starting point. But like, yeah, again, that's just the whole, any of their records is massive atmospheric and brilliant vibes. I've probably spent the budget now by getting them all to come back, haven't I already? It's the budget gone on the festival.
Unlimited budget for you, Russell. Mr. Marsden.
Bringing it back up to now, La Lom would be a good segue. Yeah, La Lom would come up with the instrumental surf rock and all of the beautiful things. I've seen they've got a new song out now called 72 Monte Carlo, which is the car, and the video they drive the car onto the stage. So I feel like they're going to come onto the stage in the car, in the 72.
Lovely.
I'm assuming it's an American car. I'm going to get it wrong. Cadillac? Pontiac? Big American car. Yeah, so have La Lom do their thing. And then going into the early evening, I'm going to keep it instrumental. The other band that I really love, and a record that came out a couple of years ago, is this record by the Ironsides. And there's a song called The Web. Got to check it out. It's almost like it could be back from that era. A bit like La Lom, Ironsides. It's surrounded with mystery to me. I don't know who's in that band or how they made such an expensive sounding thing with being newcomers. I feel like it might be a super group of successful musicians. Yeah, so I have them.
I like the mystery though behind that, because that doesn't really happen anymore. Bands don't kind of have that enigma, I guess, behind it, where you hear a record or an album, you're like, where did this come from? Like in this day and age.
It must be quite hard to do. I mean, if I can choose another band, if that band can have half a set, or like they can segue, that other band would be Salt, who are the band that no one knows who's in it. And my wife is massive. She got onto that one really early on. And I get a lot of my new listens from her Discover Weekly playlist, I must say. So she's much more on it than me, and I'm always like, what's that one? And then inevitably 6 months later, it's the biggest record in the world. Something dies inside of you when, I don't know, it's great when people are successful, but also you're like, oh, that was like our little like tune that no one else had, So we'll have Salt as well, because that's just like, that feels like good music from this modern era that hasn't been maybe like diluted with social media and all of that noise. It's just the music that stands out. And then it's nighttime now, so I need some headliners, right?
Yeah, I'll give you a headliner. Go on. So you've got an act who can...
I've got one more to go. Thank God. Headliner, I have to go. You know what? I'm going to go. I just saw this show. And I saw a hero of mine, seen him a few times, but I have this show I just saw Beck Hansen at the
what album? You saw him with the orchestra?
With the BBC Philharmonic Orchestra, and it was just so cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
so he can headline.
I know a few mates who went to that and said it was absolutely unbelievably amazing.
Yeah, it was so cool. I'm a massive fan of him, and like going back to that time, if we do the maths, like after graduating school and the Britpop moment happening, it sent us off on a discovery where all these different bands and styles of music sort of collided in the late 90s, early 2000s. So we went from, we could easily go around from Oasis to Chemical Brothers, and so Beck was an easy thing to go into. And his earlier stuff with like the sample-based stuff, and the producers on that were called the Dust Brothers, which I think the Chemical Brothers were called that. So it's all like this enigmatic, mingled together world that, it was exciting to discover. And of course now Beck, with all those other sort of more serious acoustic albums, has like all of it. He has the perfect artistic like repertoire, right? He can do like these very fun poppy kind of mixed media fun songs, but also he's got this heart-wrenching California soul, like a sun-drenched, almost like a Walker Brothers 60s epic. I think he called it chamber pop. I think that's what he's trying to do, and it really was that chamber pop. It's like Pet Sounds or something. Yeah.
Amazing. So your fantasy festival then. So Beck's going to bring out at 11 o'clock. He's going to bring back out Ironside, Salt, Lalom, The Rotary Connection, and Dorothy Ashby.
Oh yeah!
What a stage you've got!
Best day of my life.
What a stage you've got! What a stage you've got! And you can have them all play just one song. Could be any song together.
Oh wow! Well, I mean, this is really no. Yeah, I didn't know this question. I really am blindsided by this question. All right, one song. I just mentioned the Beach Boys, so yeah, and that would be enough musicians to do it justice, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we'll have it all of those. Oh. Good Vibrations?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Let's end on a high. Really, I would listen myself to like a sad song, but like let's end the festival on a high. So yeah, Good Vibrations with the whole what a cacophony of different bands playing on that one. Yeah, cool.
That's amazing. That's what it's all about. What would you want to call your fantasy festival, Russell? And where would you want to hold it? You can hold it in Southampton in the Joiners Arms. You can hold it as...
Oh yeah, they would love that. Yeah, I would. No, the Joiners could do the ticketing, so they'd be the promoter. Shout out to them, and but yeah, I think I mean, where do I want to have it? Like, I want to go. Yeah, I would. Somewhere like I'm really into like when there's been a famous photo and people go and find like the movie location or the place. So down south of London somewhere, I think it might be near Reigate or somewhere near the M25, is a park. Now, I'm trying to find it because I want to go there. It's the park where the Beatles recorded the video to Strawberry Fields Forever. When they're on horses and they're in a tree with a piano and there's all bits of wool in the... and I reckon that tree is still there. Like, what a place. No one's been back there for how many years? And what a legendary place. So yeah, in the park near Reigate, which is good access for the motorway and for town.
Yeah.
Where the Beatles recorded the video for Strawberry Fields Forever.
All right, great stuff. Name for your fantasy festival before?
I've got a name for it. The Strawberry Letter. There you go.
All right.
I'm doing the playlist still. Yeah. I didn't quite get to that song or that band, so I'm just trying to cram them all in there.
All right, so we've got the Strawberry Letter taking place in the park where the Beatles filmed Strawberry Fields Forever off the M25 in Reigate. Although,
can someone phone in what that is? I'd love to know.
We'll find out. Someone will know, and we'll sell all the merch for the festival at the Joiners Arms, so they'll get a good percentage.
Get the cut, yeah. I want to get them. Yeah,
get it all there. Yeah. Dorothy Ashby opening for you. She's going to play Afro Harping in full, followed by the Rotary Connection, Lalom, Ironside and Salt, and Beck. And for your encore, they're all going to play Good Vibrations. That sounds incredible.
Honestly, I hope I dream of this evening. It's just brilliant. That's my best day of my life. Wonderful.
Brilliant. Before we finish this one up, Russell, obviously we've spoken about the box set coming out. We've spoken about the Jet support that's coming up. What else is going on, or what else do you hope hold in store for you in 2025 or 2026 even, I guess?
Yeah, well, I want to get all this new music out. Really, I mean that's the major focus for me. It's really important to have a connection with the history of the band and the music that I've written and been a part of all these years. But also, the thing that really drives me on is being creative and writing new songs, working with new people, collaborating with new people. So I hope to put that one out there and share that with the world. And also, there's been a bit, in the last few years, I've been a producer as well and made records with other people. So I really hope that I can continue to do that. And it's amazing people reaching out to me, want to make records. And I love being a part of the process for other people and all of the amazing creative people that I've worked with over the years. I remember the good advice, and I love giving that advice and helping other people with their records as well. So playing live, it's a balance really, isn't it? Playing live, writing, being in the studio, I'd love, and also giving that chance to other people, because it's ever increasingly difficult to have an idea and get it out there to the world. So it was difficult enough for us, and I really, really feel that. So when there's great music to be heard, you really have to roll up your sleeves and and with some help and a little bit of luck, get it out there to the world. So I'd like to be a part of that for any great music that I discover in the future, and talented artists as well. You know, like I'm always listening and trying to find out, as you might have gathered, trying to find like the next thing that does, you know, makes me feel something, and wondering whether like I can be a part of someone else's journey as well, or they can be a part of mine. That's it, really. It's the exciting thing of music is, you know, the things that divide us don't really exist in music. So that's the good thing about it. It's a common language that just like we can, you know, I think that's something to think about on a more profound level more and more these days. So I hope that's the running thread that keeps me going and takes me on the next adventure.
That's such a great attitude to have. It's so refreshing to hear someone say that. That's a big compliment to yourself for that, Russell. How do people keep in contact with you these days? What's the best place to go and find you? Obviously, there's so many social media platforms these days. If anyone wants to keep up to date with yourself or the band, where's the best place?
Social media, like there's a lot to. I do have some help with that because there's so much going on. But like, on the Instagram and all that kind of stuff, there'll be a bunch of stuff coming out about the box set coming up soon. So yeah, just check out the socials, all the usual places, and not only this incredible box, but also some new music is coming soon from Band of Skulls, and I'm sure some more shows closer to home for UK friends, and a lot sooner for American ones. Yeah.
Brilliant. Great to hear. So that is it. Thanks to everyone to listening to the 177th episode of the Fantastival Podcast. If you've enjoyed this one, please subscribe, give the Fantastival Podcast a review on iTunes, or if you're listening on Spotify, you can follow the podcast, you can rate the show, and you can also leave a comment on the episode. So if you've enjoyed this one, please feel free to do that. The podcast is on socials as well. It's on Twitter. You can give us a follow at FantastivalP. We are also on TikTok as well. And you can also email the podcast at fantastivalpodcast@outlook.com. Russell, a massive thank you to you for being my 177th Fantastival Podcast guest. I've loved having you on the podcast. I know it was a bit rushed and you weren't prepared, but how did you find that, I guess, collating your fantasy festival? It sounds like there's a lot of music for me to go and take away and get into that I haven't heard of.
Hopefully, it was great. I think if I really prepared it, I would have probably been a bit more. I don't know. I would have overthought it. But essentially, you've got my last month's like concert going, Instagram discoveries, and dusty DJ records put into real life. So that was a really fun experience, and I'd love to. Maybe in the future you can sell a download where I can experience that. You know, I'd love to sort of now watch the festival play out. But it's a great thought, and it was a fun process. And I thought I was doing the whole weekend, so I over prepared. I had too many bands, I couldn't get them all in.
What we sometimes do, people sometimes make playlists of their choices in order, and that really does kind of bring the element to life a bit. Again, if you closed your eyes and pictured yourself in a sunny environment or a field, you're almost there experiencing the reality of it.
I am, I will. I will really try and use my imagination to get myself there, playlists, man. I'm just going to be I'm going to be in the wrong field in Reigate going, this is it, can you feel the energy? And you're like, no mate, you're the wrong side of F-25.
Well, it didn't happen, right? I take it the American visa hasn't come through, so the podcast will have to wait to the next guest and hopefully get a live visa.
Listeners, hopefully they'll be welcoming us soon. So we'll be there. We'll get there.
All right. Best luck for the future, Russell. Thank you so much. Great guest.
Thank you.
I'll be back next week with episode number 178. So please make sure to join me for that one. But until then, stay safe, my Fantastival friends. Please continue to spread the word, and that word is Fantastival. Thanks for listening.